大家好，我的名字是 Russell, and I'm so excited to be here at TGDF 2022 to give this presentation on multiplayer and live game development with Unity Gaming Services. I'm a developer advocate at Unity, so if you have any questions about this presentation or UGS, please feel free to reach out to me at my email. You can also follow our social handles to get the most up-to-date news about our upcoming product launches and news about UGS. So let's take a look at what this session will be about. We're going to be going over a brief overview of what Unity Gaming Services are, and then we're going to take a deeper look at the multiplayer tech stack, including Netcode, Lobby, and Relay. We're going to be addressing Multiplay, which is our dedicated game server hosting. We'll also be looking at some of the live GameOps services, such as Cloud Code, CloudSieve, and Economy. And then we'll be addressing analytics and monetization and how these powerful tools within UGS can help you as a developer understand the impact of your ads and monetization strategy on your player base. So why UGS? Well, first we have to look at our player expectations. Players today are always expecting new content for their games. A new character, a new level, new items. They want to be able to play with their friends across the globe. So you have to have a robust networking infrastructure. They'll want to be match made in a fair way in order not to be, matched with players that are out of their skill level, either too high or too low. They want to be able to communicate within their games with voice chat and text, and you're going to want to look at some mitigation for toxicity in those circumstances. A lot of times, players will want to play on the devices that they have near them, so they could be starting on a phone and then a tablet and transition to a computer when they get home. They'll want to have engaging gameplay, right? And that could include personalized experiences, which means a lot more content than ever before. And so that, as a game developer, brings a lot of challenges. Some of the tools that support these different services that you're trying to integrate may not work well together, if at all. The data that they're trying to communicate across from each service might not be in a format that is acceptable. So you have to do a lot of interpreting of the data for your services that are supposed to help you. A lot of times, experts are required to set up the initial consultation for your game, for these services, and ongoing support and maintenance. And so that's where UGS comes in. It provides the solutions that you need across the entire span of the game development lifecycle. So from the initial planning stages, when you're just trying to identify what kind of multiplayer game that you want to make, so some of the backend services that you need in order to have a live game, constant updates, pushing changes to your game without affecting your users, for example, without the need for downloading anything. You want to be able to understand your analytics and player engagement to better understand how to address your player base. And you'll also want to have the ability to monetize your game and grow in order to support your studio. So now let's take a look at some of the world's biggest studios that rely on Unity Gaming Services to power their experiences for millions of players around the world. So as you can see, UGS is battle tested. Developers rely on our services in order to provide the best experience for their players. We've worked with all types of game developers that have used these services and adding multiplayer and driving player engagement, including major studios with AAA games and small indies that have grown into enormous player bases. We've incorporated the learnings and pain points from helping these titles launch and scale directly into UGS. And now any game developer can benefit from the same experiences that Innersloth used to grow and deliver new features in Among Us. The same game server hosting that allowed Apex Legends to scale from launch to 1 million players in under 24 hours. So now let's take a look at the multiplayer stack. Developers want to be able to have seamless multiplayer experiences for their players, and this comes in the form of self-service game hosting, adding voice chat and text chat to your games in order to have the most engaging experience possible with Vivox, and the ability to customize your own matchmaking algorithms in order to have a fair and competitive experience for your players. So let's learn a little bit more about Multiplay. Multiplay is Unity's engine-agnostic game server hosting service, which also comes packed with Matchmaker. It's able to scale with your game in order to have the right amount of servers at the right amount of time. It's battle tested for gaming. It scales with the demand, as I mentioned before, and even the largest games today depend on Multiplayer to power their online experiences. As I mentioned with Matchmaker, you as a developer are able to write the right rules in order to organize your players into the correct brackets to get a fair and competitive game. It's easy to get started with an online setup guide on the dashboard, which allows you as a developer to go step by step through the needs and updates required to get Multiplayer working. It uses the same market-leading technology behind some of the current games that you already play, and you only pay as your game grows. And I'm excited to share with you today a demo about self-serve Multiplay, which should be coming out later this month, if not already out. So as you can see from the dashboard, there's a very easy onboard setup guide that allows you to pick your build, upload it, and create a release. And once you're up and running, these dashboards exist that allow you to track the state of your servers and see your population of your games in action. As I mentioned before, many of the world's largest games already rely on Multiplay to power their servers. And you can find out more at unity.com/multiplay. So let's talk a little bit more about Netcode, Lobby, and Relay. Netcode is our easy-to-use networking package that allows you to sync players and game objects across the internet. It's a mid-level networking library. Relay and Lobby is our peer-to-peer solution for multiplayer, and you can get set up in less than 25 minutes to get your players online and connected to each other. So let's learn a little bit more about Netcode for game objects. So it's a networking library built for the Unity game engine, and it allows you to abstract your networking. So you as a developer don't have to worry about the low-level protocols and network frameworks in order to still build a fantastic multiplayer game. It's open sourced based on the MIT license, which means anybody can contribute to the project. It's based on a client-server networking mode, and it's also got the ability to support peer-to-peer as well as dedicated game servers, including Multiplay. It's going to be targeting small-scale cooperative games at first, and it has a variety of support via the GitHub as well as the Discord servers. So if you have any Multiplay Netcode related questions, please feel free to join us in our discussions there. And it's also got a network profiler so that you can understand what's happening under the hood for your games. How about Relay? Well, as I mentioned before, it's one of our services that allows players to connect to each other in order to play multiplayer games together. This again without the need for a dedicated game server host. One of the players instead is the host for the others. It's cost friendly because it depends on your player's devices instead of having the price of having to host a game server. It scales automatically, allowing players to join in at the right time without disrupting the network for others. And it's got secure communication with DLTS, which is Datagram Transport Layer Security. And this protects the UDP communications between your players and Relay's servers. This allows your players to deliver data that is securely encrypted and authenticated. And so here's a visualization of what Relay and Lobby looks like when compared to a more traditional dedicated game server host. So as you can see on the left, all players are connecting to each other in order to ensure peer-to-peer networking, as opposed to a central server where all players join that server instead. So what about Lobby? So Lobby is our solution that allows players to have the ability to join a custom lobby using a QR code or other form of identification, typically numbers and letters. And this allows, in partnership with Relay, for excellent multiplayer experiences. You're able to have custom lobby management and discoverability. You're able to have these games being hosted by your players' devices instead of having a dedicated game server. It has out-of-the-box quick join functionality, so Relay already handles the automatic lifting for scaling of these users. And it has the ability to have invite-only lobbies. As mentioned before with DTLS, you're able to encrypt the communication, which means that players can join only with a secure code. So here's a visualization of what that will look like. One player creates a lobby name, shares the name of that lobby, and gives the password to other players. This means that you can have, secure gameplay with your friends. Galactic Kittens is one of our demos that we plan to release on GitHub that makes use of Netcode, Lobby, and Relay. So here's a quick demo about Galactic Kittens. So as you can see, it's a very simple game where one player chooses to be the host on the left and one player on the right can join as a client. You pick your character and you start playing. It's a simple multiplayer 2D game where your aim is to get to the end of the level and defeat the boss. So as you can see, the movement of the players is being accurately tracked between both players, and I believe up to 4. The aim of Galactic Kittens is to provide a starting point for developers who are interested in understanding how Netcode, Lobby, and Relay work together in order to get the best experience for your players for a peer-to-peer style multiplayer game. Well, let's take a look at Boss Room. Boss Room is another Unity project that is built in order to showcase how Netcode, Lobby, and Relay can perform up to 8 players in a typical mobile game environment. It works on Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, and it's available on GitHub again as a resource for you as a developer to learn more about how to use these services together. Another excellent sample for lobbies is the game lobby sample. It utilizes Lobby and Relay, and this is a screenshot from the game that demonstrates how a typical game would look like implementing Lobby, including the ability for VVox as well. So your players can chat to each other in the lobbies and in the game itself. Works on Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, and it's also available on GitHub at that link below. So let's take a look at the onboarding experience for VVox within the Unity Gaming Services dashboard. So as you can see, you're able to estimate the cost of the service based on your usage. And there's a very useful onboarding guide in order for you to understand how to integrate VVox. It'll take you step by step through the packages that you need, and you'll also be able to have access to sample projects that will allow you to understand and see how the code and scripting would work. Now, one thing I want to highlight is that VVox is engine agnostic. So if you're using Unreal or a custom engine, you'll still be able to integrate voice and chat via VVox. So now you have multiplayer enabled. Let's take a look at how matchmaking would work from the dashboard. So as soon as you enter the matchmaking service, you're able to create a queue, for example, a 3v3 mode or a battle royale. Then you'll want to set up your player segmentation into pools, for example, all Xbox players together or all PlayStation players together. You would then assign rules that you've created. You would then split them into the relevant teams. And you're also able to create custom rules that fit your game rather than just using the presets that we have available. So let's take a look at game backend solutions. These are Unity gaming services that are built to help developers as they scale their games up and provide a live game as a service model. First up is authentication. This is our secure login platform that allows players to log in with their existing Play Store or iOS App Store accounts and more to come in order to be able to take their game cross-platform and cross-device. This means that users who play on a phone could then continue from a laptop with their progress. Next up, Cloud Save. This is our cloud hosting service that allows player data to be stored to the cloud. It allows developers to manage persistent player information that doesn't rely on a client upload and instead can be tracked from one source of truth. So let's take a look at Cloud Code. Cloud Code is the ability to upload scripts to our cloud hosting service, which means that your game can pull that updated data without the need for any patching or downloading if you were to make a change to those logic scripts. And now economy. Economy is the ability to create, manage, and publish an economy system for your game. It's one convenient dashboard that allows you to manage items and inventories as well as in-app purchases from one online dashboard. So let's take a look at a demo sample that we've built called Mainframe that utilizes these backend services. It's a sci-fi collectible card game that, as I mentioned before, allows you to see how these services would work in a production-ready environment. It demonstrates these UGS working together with code samples available for you to take a look and understand how to integrate. So players can either choose a virus or a bot deck, and they play against an AI opponent. It's a single-player game. They can also customize their deck and purchase new cards and avatars, which showcases the ability of Cloud Save as well as the economy system. So let's take a look at a short video that demos Mainframe. So once the player has logged in, they'll be assigned a unique player ID, which allows us to track their inventory and saves across platforms. Cloud Code hosts all the AI logic for the game, so actually the game is just the front end that depicts the results from the Cloud Code queries. There's also an in-game shop typical of mobile games that allows you to understand how the economy system would work. And so you can see from this dashboard, we can easily change the price of this purchase. And as soon as we publish it, the next time the client loads the store, you'll be able to see that the value has changed without the need for any patching or downloading. We use Cloud Save to understand the data for the player's decks. This allows us to track their player information cross-platform and cross-device. So as you can see, that information is persistent and hosted on the cloud. And you can even have a look at that particular player that we have signed in to see that those player IDs match these items. So let's take a look at another Unity gaming service called Remote Config. So this is the ability for developers to quickly and easily change logic in the game without the need for any patching and downloading. So as you can see from this dashboard, we're able to take a look at the library JSON for all of the cards in the game and change the name of this card as well as the damage and health values. And as soon as we publish this change, it's reflected immediately in the game, as you can see here. You're also able to integrate game overrides along with remote config in order to do A/B testing quickly and easily from one convenient dashboard. So for example, you're able to target various segments of audiences, custom as well as these ones that we've already created. You can choose the percentage of those players that will be affected. So in this scenario, 50-50. So only half of that audience will get this new card. And the other half will have the original. You can then schedule your tests to start at a certain time and end at a certain time. And just like that, you've created a quick and simple A/B test. So this is an example of how UGS makes it easy to complete complex tasks when integrated with other services easily and effectively. And now let's take a look at analytics. So what is UGS Analytics? It provides an end-to-end data and analyzing solution to support your entire studio. This means that you're able to break down your audiences into segments and understand where they're spending time in your game. You're also able to create custom events in order to track specific behaviors, for example, when a player completes a level or gains a new item. You're then able to use SQL data explorers and funneling to understand more flexibility about what your players are doing in your game with that data that is captured. Again, analytics can be used as a standalone service, not even necessarily with the Unity game engine, and you can combine it with other tools to unlock even more benefits as well as solutions. We've built this from the ground up with customer feedback from Delta DNA and the Legacy Analytics platform. So let's take a look at a demo of the player analytics dashboards. So as you can see, there's 3 defined dashboards that you can also customize, but they give you a quick overview of things like your daily installs, your daily session length, as well as your daily active users, which allows you to track your growth and engagement quickly at a glance. You can even filter by country, as well as platform, and even the version of your game. This data can also be exported as a graph or as a CSV for even more detailed analysis. And now for retention, you'll be able to see exactly how long your players are active in your game, as well as over time your retention rates. And now the revenue dashboard, which tracks the most critical information related to the engagement of your spender segment. So what if you want more information? Let's take a look at something called the Data Explorer. This lets you further break down the data that we've already garnered into more complex views based on the specific metrics and filters that you want to take a look at, as well as custom events. You can view it in graph form. You're also able to create these custom reports based on the metrics that you want to look at and generate that data for export. And again, these audiences are tied into our remote config and player engagement products within the UGS suite, which is just another example of how well these products work together. Now let's take a look at the roadmap for Unity Gaming Services. Since we launched open beta in October of last year, we've been working hard to integrate customer feedback and update these products to be the best place that they can be in. We're happy to announce that on June 22nd, most of these products will be going into general availability for you, the developers, to check out and use. We're committing to frequent updates for these services to integrate ongoing feedback and address any customer issues that may come up. Tools and features will be added into our roadmap based on this feedback as well. So as you can see, there's some exciting things happening for matchmaking and self-service multiplayer. Leaderboards are also on our horizon, and something called asynchronous multiplayer. As we move forward, the plan is to add more features that seamlessly bring together this suite of tools in order to work and integrate the best way possible. We'll continue to simplify development with capabilities like global privacy compliancing and holistic player lifecycle reporting. So, where should you go if you would like to learn more? We host periodic UGS bootcamps in which we take a deeper look at each individual service and how they're integrated into these demos. And so if you'd like to participate, please reach out via Twitter as well as email to be added to the list. You can see over there that you can visit our uni.com/solutions/gaming-services in order to learn more about the UGS suite of tools. And if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear any feature requests or more about the UGS service that you're using on our forums. Here are some resources for you to take a look at, including documentation as well as the forums. And if you would like to take a look at the dashboard, I highly recommend going to the dashboard.unity3d.com to understand all of the setup guides and onboarding for each individual service and understand and see how everything works together so seamlessly. Of course, you can take a look at the pricing page to understand where the breakdown is in terms of free and then scaling cost. And these are the GitHub pages for the demos that when they're ready to be released. These are the specific ones for Mainframe, Galactic Kittens, and Magic 3, as well as the lobby and relay VVox for the game samples lobby that I talked about, the boss room one that utilizes Netcode lobby and relay, as well as a use cases general UGS demo that contains a lot of very specific use cases such as monetization, battle passes, loot boxes, and daily rewards. Just want to give a thank you and shout out to the TGDF. So very glad that I could give this presentation, and I look forward to hearing back from you from your successes using Unity Gaming Services. Thank you.